Hi, and welcome back to Circles, where I am discussing various theories and how they impact my book and how I write it. On Thursdays, we talk about film and media and other sources of inspiration. It comes out every Thursday. This week, I want to talk about Star Trek II, Wrath of Kahn, 1982, an awesome classic that I rewatched this weekend that really got me thinking. I got really excited about it. If this is interesting to you, or you find any of this interesting, like I said, and I'd always say, I don't know if anybody will ever watch this, but if you do, I hope that you find engagement and feel free to subscribe. Like I said, there's videos coming out every single week. So Wrath of Kahn, I think, is a really interesting one. Just in general, Star Trek in general is interesting. So I think one of the arguments I've always had is I believe Star Wars is fascinating in the sense that it is a myth. It is so Campbellian. It is the epitome of the Tolkien style of showing philosophical themes without telling. Star Trek is kind of the opposite, right? Star Trek is very neck up. Star Trek is very rational. It is very much more akin to Western philosophy. And so that's, of course, a context into understanding these films. And I think from the gate with Wrath of Kahn, the film itself is dealing with death and noting how important that is, that we have to deal with death in the same way that we deal with life. For a reminder of the film, spoilers, I suppose, Kirk has shifted from being a starship captain to being an admiral. He is kind of looking at retirement and a change. He's no longer at the front and dealing with this change in identity, while also at the same time refacing Khan, who is someone that he is a enemy from a forgotten era, that has basically been put on a shelf, and Kirk ended up putting on another planet and marooning, coming back and ultimately having to face that, and both of them dealing with their past. Really, it's a question of aging. Kirk is experiencing a death in Wrath of Kahn, this new definition of self. He's watching himself change and become into a new form of being. And so how does one deal with the concept of retirement and becoming another relic? This is something that Kirk notes. He talks about, his friend Bones comes to his apartment, looks around, and there's all of these 20th century relics that he's collected. And Bones mentions that he needs to be careful that he does not become one himself. And so in this understanding that he's experiencing a form of ideological death, I suppose as the existentialists would say, it works as his call to adventure. And what's very interesting is it's a very different story. It's aged well for its demographic because it's about somebody that thought it was time to give up, coming back and trying to re-enter the workforce, which is a really tricky thing. Kirk shows up and it's a new group. They're younger. They do things a little bit different. They have different ideas and different protocols, but at the same time, they're not that different, which I think is interesting. We see this B storyline throughout the film where this new captain is trying to understand Kirk because she keeps failing this test. And Kirk's apparently the one who's passed it. And so that's what makes him a bit of our hero here again, is he's somebody that figured out a problem nobody could, and he's coming back in, and the younger generation is going, how did you do it? And so this is a chance to have a new story. And so we see this play out again, these themes of death and change, where we bring in Kahn. So Kahn shows up, and he is representative of a past that never died and stayed in its time. If you watch my video on Chronos and how Chronos is a representation of cultural atrophy, I think that's really what Kahn represents, right? And he is Chronos, who is desperately not trying to lose his place in time. He's unwilling to die and show that his idea is superior to that of the new generation, when the reality is each new incoming one will always send the last one into atrophy, into decay. This is the truth for all of us. The virtues and magic and themes and ideas of my time will die. Right now, I mean, there's a war between millennials, which I suppose I am, and what is it, Gen Y? I don't even know. This is irrelevant, right? I mean, it's as May and the other existential thinkers talked about. I mean, it's just another routine disruption as a new wave of ideas and symbols takes out the old ones. And Kahn is Chronos, to return to that idea, right? Kahn is the one, yeah, like I said, if you haven't watched that video, I suggest it, who is unwilling to let go of his place in time and attempting to maintain, which never works, right? I mean, this is the concept of every great villain. Every great villain in stories is someone that attempts to get to exist outside the rules of our universe. And the point of the hero is to show them that's normal and they don't get a choice and we all have to. Even though we don't want to go quietly into that good night. And so we see this parallel between Kirk and Kahn. They're portrayed as opposites for a reason. Kirk is dealing with the problem of accepting that he has to let go. But he's coming back for another ride because he has to. And he gave up a little bit too early. Kahn never let go. And so they're going to have to face off and see which idea, which abstract concept makes more sense. Just as a side note, I still find it really interesting that Kahn, the genetic monster that is smarter, more clever, and ready to destroy everything, was born the same year as my wife, because that makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to throw it out. But there's a lot of interest. Yet again, as we're still seeing this intro with Kahn, this animal shows up, right? In Kahn, it shows his lack of humanity and that things become just a pure tool. Life for him is something that he can take to perpetuate his own existence. So then again, we return to this recurring idea in literature and film of evil, which is evil is those that are unwilling to let go of their place in time and attempt to eat their young. Kahn does not wish to educate the new generation. He wishes to obliterate them. And this is the parallel with Kirk, where Kirk is interested in how do I assist and help them develop. And then yet again, I mean, there's lots of themes in Star Trek, right? We go down an entire rabbit hole. You know, the Vulcans, of course, seem very representative. Relame talks about the emptiness of pure reason and how emotion is the important conduit for it. I mean, this is clearly why Kirk ends up actually being a better captain than Spock. His ability to use emotion to process information. I actually find a really interesting juxtaposition between Bones, pure emotional humanity, and Spock's pure Vulcan rationality, and Kirk in the middle, who seems to be able to create the appropriate balance between the two. It's almost like they're the different angels on his shoulder, and our filmmaker is giving us a perspective into humanity and how we come to be able to understand ourselves. This is a very Kantian idea, right? I mean, Kant would talk about his, I mean, he wrote a book called Critique on Pure Reason. I mean, that's clearly what he was going after. But I mean, this is the Kahn yet again that shows a very Spockian thing where he has lost his humanity and his superior intellect. It is an attempt to give up humanity for pure reason and to show that a superiority. And so the general thesis of the film is that will lose to the creative emotionality of humanity represented in Kirk. And that's how you beat the no-win scenario. Is you cheat. You find a way. And what Kirk does, and what I found really interesting of existential theory, the no-win scenario is death. It's over. And death when you know you have to face it. What Kirk is able to find is an ability to transcend death and be as simple. He's able to pass on the virtue He's able to become something more than himself, and it requires a sacrifice to do it. Right? I mean, there's a quote at the end of the film where there's talking in general. He is not really dead as long as we remember him. This is why Kirk has to have a son in the film. And he has to face that he is a father, and he has to look at this the biological son juxtaposed to the ones he has taught in Starfleet Command. And so the question we're left with at the end of Wrath of Kahn is, will we accept our own inevitable decay? And rather than try to cling past what is given to us, can we become symbols of what we represent so that what actually matters, which isn't to us, but the magic and ideas, the bravery and virtues that we possess could perhaps be passed on, and that those might live past us. So those are my thoughts on Wrath of Kahn. I think there's I'm of course really influenced by Rollo May right now, existentialist theory. I've been reading a lot of Camus. So a lot of different ideas in there. If this was interesting to you at all and somebody stumbled upon this, please make a comment. I'd love to talk to anybody about this stuff. I'm just trying to figure it out right now. There's other videos you can watch. There's probably some in the corner right now. Subscribe. Like I said, there should be videos Monday through Friday covering everything from philosophy to folklore to how I'm writing this book. I hope to connect with you.